64. Approaching Boyle, headed out through McCausland. Slow from McKnight to Ballas is busy. There's heavy traffic approaching, let's call it west of Winghaven out 70, really. And eastbound 64, east of 94 to the Boone Bridge. Roadwork going on there, so there's heavy traffic. Southbound 270, bogs down. South of Page through Manchester, 44 down through Gravois, approaching Chestnut Ferry. A little busy. North 270, the right lanes are slow. Dorset up. Midway to 70, if you're on the westbound 44, the ramp lanes are heavy at Lindbergh. Southbound 55, Arsenal to Bates, the usual delays. I'm Roger Brand, and then Michael's FlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
This is Jeff Sachs at Sachs Financial, RetireSafeSTL.com. Retirement security means a peace of mind, knowing you have the freedom to live the life of your dreams and to wake up each day without financial stress. Let us simplify your retirement today. RetireSafeSTL.com.
News, traffic, and the latest on the Redbirds. This is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Hi, back in on the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt, Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. You guys welcome to join us, obviously, on 104.1 KMOX. If you want to join us on the stream, you can do that on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the normal places. And no matter where you are, we want you to participate, man. Your comments, your opinions, your questions, everything's cool. You can throw those into the comments on any of those social media outlets, or you can text 314-436-7900. Matt, today is one of those days that I love because there's a lot from today's game to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love it in the sense that the Cardinals lost the game.
No.
But this is, if you want a talking point baseball game.
This is juicy stuff.
There's a lot of stuff in this one.
All right, so let's start with the basics. Obviously, okay. Cardinals lost 2-1 in 13 innings. There are some really interesting decisions to talk about because there's information involved in those decisions that at least at this moment we don't have, but I want to get into that. Get a couple other parts of this, but like the number one thing that led to a loss today is you scored one run in 13 innings.
Yes.
I mean, you had a starting pitcher that gave you six no-hit innings. Your bullpen was mostly great. You didn't give up an earned run because the only runners that crossed the plate were the ghost runners, the Manfred men. You know, like this was not now again, Roycroft really struggled.
Right.
You know, it's not like there weren't problems, but mostly this was a game where the outcome is you didn't hit enough, and that's why you lost.
They scored their only run in the 12th inning, so they played 11
with
innings
a Manfred man.
Yeah.
Right.
They went 11 innings, 2 of those innings with the automatic runner, and they only got 1 run across. So that is, it felt somewhat like last year. They go 3 for 15 with runners in scoring position. That's a bad number. They leave 11 on base. That's not a terrible number in a 13-inning game, but all things considered, and there were some opportunities to push some runs across today, and they did not.
And again, to be fair, it's their first bad offensive game of the year.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you're on game 12, and it's your first bad offensive game. That's not to excuse or anything. It's just we got to talk about what things are. That's what you're going to find on the Redbird Rush Hour. We're going to talk about what things are, not what you think they feel like, not what I think they feel like, what they are. And what this was today is your first bad offensive game. Now, again, some credit to Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller is a really talented pitcher. He had a great day, a day that was almost as good as the guy who threw 6 no-hit innings. So you give the credit there, but you also balanced it by scoring 5 against Paul Skeens yesterday. So it's not always going to be even keel when you're facing talented pitchers. And today and yesterday kind of show the difference. The day you thought you'd get shut down, 30 degrees, and one of the best pitchers on the planet, if not the most talented pitcher on the planet, you get 5 against him. But you don't get anything against a guy that's pretty talented in the next day in Mitch Keller. He's not some rando 5th starter that you should pound.
Yeah, I would argue he had a better day than Fetty. 7 in the third, 4 hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, compared to Fetty, who doesn't give up a hit in 6, but 2 strikeouts and 4 walks. Pittsburgh had to use less bullpen guys. They were a little bit more aggressive with their bullpen in terms of innings that they got from them.
Yep.
So Keller, with the all-encompassing what happened in this game, Keller gave the Pirates a better chance to win than Fetty gave the Cardinals. That's not to say Fetty was not absolutely fantastic today. He was.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea of kind of how this went for the Cardinals hitters late in the game, you had Ferguson, Santana, and Baraki throw, right? That was 4 innings of work for those guys. Those guys threw a combined 42 pitches in 4 innings, right? So, like, Santana threw 2 innings on 13 pitches. Tells you, so that's the number one reason you lost. It's not the only reason. There were some other things in here, and I think we can get to the first one. This is not really a decision as much as it is just an absolute boot. Pop Warner sending Michael Ciani in the 10th inning as the ghost runner on the with nobody out. So Pajes is at the plate, hits a hard single to left field. Ciani's thrown out by 15 feet.
Yeah.
That can't happen.
I mean,
that you do not make the first out of an inning at home plate. You could have had first and third, nobody out. And I would make a really strong argument that if you don't have the bad send there, you probably win this game.
Pham was in possession of the baseball before the runner had touched, before Ciani had even touched third.
Yeah, he can't go.
No, that's a terrible send. Everybody involved with it should know it. Like, this is not one of those criticisms where
I'm sure Pop knows it too, but that doesn't mean he's immune from criticism.
No,
man.
but that was a terrible send, and they would have had first and third, nobody out. Even, let's say, like, you have a puncher's chance of being safe in that situation, that it's not, you still don't send the runner because of the time and temperature of the game. First and third, nobody out in extra innings, and that's prime opportunity for a big inning, which is what you want in the top of an extra inning. To send them in that spot, you just run yourself out of an inning. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, and Nick jumped in on the comments, and we got it up on the screen if you're watching, but he said, biggest sin in baseball, getting the first out at home plate.
Yeah.
It's one of the cardinal rules of base running. You don't make the first out of an inning at home plate, and you don't make the last out of an inning at third base, right? Like, these are things that we've known forever, and unless it's a sure thing, right? It's not if you think you have a chance in that scenario. It's got to be a sure thing on the send. And clearly it wasn't, because a fast runner was thrown out by 15 feet.
Right. A bad throw still gets them.
Yeah.
Like, you could have 3-hopped that thing in, and you still got time to apply the tag.
That's a big problem. There are some other interesting decisions in this. And I say interesting and not bad only because there's some context we don't have, right? I didn't like pulling Eric Fetty after 6 innings in the no-hitter, not because of the no-hitter. Okay, he was not – Ollie was right. He said this after the game. He was not going to finish that game. You're right. He's definitely not getting the no-hitter. I'm thinking of it more like, how about one more inning to guard against a bullpen that's been a problem and has been overused over the last 7 days?
Yeah.
And a guy with 88 pitches who, as I looked this up, Fetty threw 90-plus, between 90 and 105 pitches in every start in April last year for the White Sox. He threw 90-plus in 23 starts last year. So this is not a workload that's a problem for him. And he only threw 60-something his last time out because he got rocked early. I don't understand why you don't push it a little bit here to try to save the bullpen an inning if you can. And even if it's just a couple batters, that can make a difference, especially when a guy hasn't given up a hit. I understand, though, that the player might have told the manager, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of cooked. And if that's the case, the manager has to listen to the player, but we don't have that information.
We don't have that information. If I'm Oliver Marmol in that spot, I probably run him back out for the 7th inning. I don't think I'm quite as passionate on this one as you are. I think the whole third time through, all that. But I would also say this.
I hate that.
Okay, you can hate that. It's still the number. You shouldn't hate that, Kevin, because the numbers are what the numbers are.
Right, but the numbers are without context. It's an average pitcher on an average game, and that's what the numbers are. It's not a guy that's pitching very well against a garbage lineup.
Okay.
Because the Pirates are a bad lineup.
We got to get tried. That's a side. This is the most important thing I'm going to say on all this. I felt like in that situation, you're almost managing the game like you have the lead.
Yeah.
Because if you're up in that situation and then you're setting up the 7th, 8th, and 9th with your guys that you trust out of the bullpen, then I'm all in on Fetty coming out of the game at that point, because you've got things set up the way you want to in the final.
If you're ahead,
innings.
for sure.
Right. But because it's a tie game, that's where I have a hard time with Fetty coming out at that point.
And again, he might have gone out and stunk.
Yeah.
Right. And again, he may have told the manager that he's done. I don't know that. So that's why I can't yell about it, but it's fun conversation, because these are things that fans are thinking. So we got that. We got a few more bullpen ideas, some moves in the bullpen I think are interesting and not necessarily bad or good, although they seem bad at the forefront. We'll talk about those as we go along. It's Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler with you here on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, it's still really tough getting through downtown into Illinois. This traffic reports the service of Siding Express eastbound
Nation or visit windownation.com.
For all station contest rules, go to KMOX.com/rules.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
Right, you're back in on the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Obviously, you can join us. Your comments, questions, opinions are welcome in the chat, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitter. If you want to text us, 314-436-7900. And again, I find it interesting, Matt, that a lot of the things that happened today, sure, they impacted the game. I think we all agree, though, the lack of offense is the real problem when you score one run in 13 innings. But I think some of the decisions on pitching changes do kind of inform us on some things. We keep seeing them, and we'll get to the bullpen part later because we don't have time to do it all now. But they're not pushing their starters at all.
They're not.
The starters are coming out early, if not, earlier than you would think. I know the temperature yesterday. I understand all of it. And I also understand there's communication between the player and the manager that informs every decision. And we do need to keep that in mind. So if Sonny Gray says, I'm cooked, if Eric Fetty says, I don't know if I got another inning, then you take that into account and you move on. And we don't know those things, and a manager's not going to divulge those things most of the time.
Ollie did say yesterday about Sonny, though, that he was coming in between innings and was trying to stretch out, and his body was not responding. So, I have zero problem whatsoever with what happened yesterday with Sonny, because clearly his body was not reacting well to the cold weather.
Yeah, well, but again, it's kind of a problem. You need innings from your starters, and you have a bullpen that's already getting worn. And if you're not going to get innings from Sonny, and if Fetty can't go past 88, and Miles is getting rocked, and Liberatore's never started for a full season, so how many innings can you really – I'll give him credit. He's gone 6+ in both his starts, but you can't have just one guy giving you innings.
I think part of what's going on is all the research here recently, and Major League Baseball did a big study on pitching injuries, and the vast majority, or maybe not majority, but a high percentage of pitching injuries are happening during spring training and during the first month of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I have to wonder, are the Cardinals being way overprotective of their starters because they're trying to avoid injury?
You're going to burn out your bullpen then.
Sure.
That's going to be the result.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
and
going to be.
And you got to start dipping in Memphis at some point.
Well, maybe soon, hopefully. We'll talk about
Friday.
that. So we got some more on the bullpen moves, but not so much about just what they mean today, but how much do they inform us about moves that may be coming in the coming days, too? I think that's what's fascinating about this. It's Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you, talking baseball in the Redbird Rush Hour here on 1041 KMOX.
Have you been injured in an accident? You need a personal injury law firm that free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends Mark and Neil Gelman from the Gelman team of eXp Realty. If you want immediate cash for your home or to see what your home is actually worth in today's market, find out for free from the local experts. 314-336-1991. Go to thegelmanteam.com.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX. Matt, Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. We got some comments popping in here. We'll throw some in here as we go along. So let's continue on the pitching side for a minute. We've already kind of touched on the decisions today. And, I really think this is a bigger decision than what happened today, right? Like the conversation about when we're pulling starters is not about whether you could have won or lost today's game if Eric Fetty stayed in there. It's more the bigger picture, right? That if we're going to look at a rotation that isn't going to get deeper into games, if guys can only go 70, 75, 80, 85 pitches, then this bullpen's going to be in trouble.
It is.
I mean, real trouble, like 2023 trouble.
The one place I give the benefit of the doubt, going back to what I was saying earlier, I think they're being very careful still early on in the season. We can have the argument whether or not they should be being careful or not. But I would guess that the conversation that we're having about this is going to look different in a few weeks when it starts to warm up a little bit.
But look at the impact it's already had on the bullpen.
I'm not, again,
you're losing games because
you're preaching to the choir, Kevin.
Yeah.
But in terms of this being like a long range problem that's going to be out over 162 games, I don't think that's going to be. I think they're going to start pushing starters deeper into games because they have to. And John Mozeliak talked about this. I was sitting right next to him in the dugout in Memphis when they talked about the 6-man rotation. And I asked him very directly, do you feel like you're going to get more length out of your starters when you go to a 6-man rotation? And he basically said, well, you have to. So you have to get more length. That is, you as an organization do not make the decision to go to a 6-man rotation without internally thinking that you are going to get more length out of your starters. It hasn't started happening yet, but I think it is something that they're looking for.
Yeah, I with the pitchers that you have, I think that you're being overly cautious. Look at the guys that have gotten hurt early. Jared Jones. It's all the guys that are up there ripping at 100 miles an hour.
Sure.
When you've got guys that are not pitching at max effort, and how many Cardinals starters throw max effort on a regular? I mean, Sonny does.
Yeah.
He does. So he fits that description. That's not Miles. It's not Eric Fetty. It's not Matthew Liberatore. I think that this is why when we talk about protecting pitchers, I don't think we can apply a rule like a one-size-fits-all type of rule that a team with guys that are strike throwers that are not out there ripping it at 100% effort all the time don't need to run their team the same way that a group of guys does when they got guys that are like Skeens. I don't see anybody holding Skeens back. I don't see Logan Gilbert being held back.
And look, not to relitigate what we were talking about earlier, but I think the other side, and this actually goes to more your side of this, is not all like 90 pitch days are the same.
100% true.
Today, I thought for Fetty, that was a free and easy
88's nothing when it's 13 pitches an inning.
Right, and he was never he gave up leadoff walks. Yeah, he always got double plays after him.
Yep.
There was never high stress situations.
Right.
There's sometimes where 88 pitches is a lot of pitches.
Of course.
And there's a lot of runners on base, and there's just a lot going on, and
yes.
you're grinding your way through. There was nothing grindy about Fetty's 88 today.
Really good point. Yeah. That's a great point. And that's kind of my point. Not to our argument, but just in general, when we talk about protecting arms and pitch counts and all that, pitch counts are nonsense. They're absolute nonsense. In and of themselves, they don't tell us anything. 75 pitches in 4 innings is a lot worse than 75 pitches in 5 innings.
Sure.
And I think if anybody's ever lifted weights or anybody's ever run sprints, you know exactly what we're talking about. If I say to you, you listener, let's say Nick, who's listening to us and commenting on YouTube, if I say, Nick, you've got to go run 10 100-meter sprints all out as hard as you can run, and you got to do it in 4 minutes. versus you got to go run 10 100-meter sprints all out as fast as you can go, but you've got 20 minutes to do it. Which one of those is easier?
Clearly the 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And that's how it is with workloads. It's not about innings. It's about number of pitches, but within the context. Like you made that point about high traffic innings and stress innings is incredibly important. And a lot of these guys that we're talking about getting hurt are in those because they're walking people and their command's not good. And I think that's why like an Eric Fetty is not really in that area of concern.
I would agree.
Yeah. So it'll be fascinating to see how this plays. All right. Bullpen moves. And I think a little more offense to talk about here before we wrap things up. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. It is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, it's still tough traffic downtown. This traffic report's a service of Volley Incorporated, eastbound 6.
And play today. Volley.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, back in Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here till the top of the hour, and then Matt's got Sports Open Line. I'm guessing more baseball tonight?
A lot of baseball.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah.
You know, I'm smart like that.
Bernie's going to be with us at 6:20.
Nice.
Yeah.
Get some more breakdown on some of these issues.
Sure.
I was texting with Bernie after the game, and he made a great point, and I think obviously when we're talking about this, like there's a lot of fun things to talk about in this game, but the real story is you didn't hit,
right?
And it's the first time this year you didn't hit. You score 1 run in 13 innings. It does magnify decisions like sending Ciani in the 10th inning when you shouldn't, things like that. But the reality is, look, you had a chance when you went ahead in the 11th to extend that, and you didn't.
Right. The Arenado getting
what is he doing?
Yeah, that's a terrible base running decision by Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, a veteran can't do that.
No,
a veteran can't. I get it. The game's not easy. Like if it was easy, then we all would have played up there in the big leagues too. It's not. Like we get that. But again, veteran players can't get picked off on a slow chopper to third base in that situation.
Yeah.
And just like you can't send a guy home when he's got no chance with nobody out yet in the inning. So those things are all magnified in a game like this. I don't know that they have any greater meaning though than they are just bad things that happened in a game, right?
Yeah. And that's why I kind of give Thomas Saggese a free pass on what happened.
Yeah.
How often
it's a free
baseball
play, yeah.
do you have two guys laying in the middle of the third baseline
and they just fall
plate?
there as you're right?
Yeah.
That's a hard play. Yeah, I agree with you. That's because you don't plan for it.
No.
It's not something you practice for. It just it happened. It's weird. And the reality is the umpires should use their authority and say the guy had to change his path to home because of the fielders. That's obstruction. Period. The end.
Yeah, they make such a big deal about your path around the other bases.
Right.
Why? If he's tiptoeing through the tulips around two freaking dudes in the middle of why all of a sudden is it different because you're between third and home as opposed if you're going first to second or second to third?
It's not. It's stupid. If a catcher blocks the base path when he doesn't have the ball, whether it's intentional or not, the runner's going to be called safe at home. The obstruction rule is not contingent upon there being actual contact.
No.
It does not have to be intentional. And I just think umpires are afraid to call it.
Well, stop being afraid.
No, I agree. That should have been
do your
obstruction.
job.
Yeah, that should be obstruction. If a base runner has to change his path because a defender is in his way, it's obstruction.
100%.
All right. So there's that too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ryan Helsley for a second. And again, this is not ripping the player or the manager because, again, there are things we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Ryan Helsley pitched today in the 11th inning, and it's fine, 10 pitches to get out of the inning. He did give up a hit and a walk, but it still only took 10 pitches to get out of the inning. And he did not come back out there when they took the lead coming into the 12th inning. So they took the lead in the top of the 12th, and he didn't come back out after 10 pitches. Now, I think that's a decision that's going to lead to really important natural questions. Why isn't he back out there? We don't have enough information now to say whether it was a mistake or not. It looks like a mistake because you're like, well, 10 pitches, man. He was off Monday, he was off Tuesday, and he's off tomorrow. So, you got 2 off days and then an off day coming afterwards. And 25 pitches is not a lot for a reliever. And who knows how long it would have taken him. But what we don't know is what conversation he might have had with the manager pregame.
Yeah.
Because the manager will go to all the guys in the bullpen on a pregame and be like, all right, what's the deal? You good? You're not good? You have a problem? You okay? What do you got for me? I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of how these conversations go. And if the player's like, I may have a little bit, but I don't want to push it, well, then the manager's got to factor that in on a decision. So if that's the case, then I think that answers the question, why not Ryan Helsley in the 12th? If that's not the case, then Ryan Helsley should have been out there, man.
Agreed. I've got 3 things on this real quick. First off, I hear it all the time from people being critical of Helsley not pitching multiples or not pitching too many back-to-backs. And my response to them is, they finally found last year a system that worked for him, and he became the best reliever in the National League, maybe in all of Major League Baseball. So let's stop being so angry about him not going multiples very often and things like that.
Completely agree.
Because they found a system that worked, and
what they did to him before was not cool.
Right. So he pitched at an elite level last year, which was very much connected to the way they used him. I would argue that today was different. I would also say he threw 37 pitches in that loss against Boston.
Right.
And he was obviously not available yesterday because they would have used him yesterday.
Right.
So clearly he was having a hard time bouncing back.
That's the point.
Right. Because they talked to him before every game.
Right.
So they found out yesterday that he's not available. But just at a surface level, 10 pitches, and because there's been times where he's come out for a second inning in that exact same scenario.
Yeah.
And he's been the guy to go to Ali and say, I'm good, put me back in.
Sure.
He's done that many times. And the fact that he didn't do that today, I think, is a weird thing. I don't know if they're really if this goes back to the protection of guys early on in the season. But I would also say, what's a more dangerous thing to do? Have Ryan Helsley come out for a second inning, which, yes, I'm not ignoring the risk. There is risk to that because it's an up and down for a guy very early on in the season who doesn't do up and down. So let's not just get rid of the risk. There is risk involved in that. But what's more risky? Asking him to do an up and down, or literally asking Steven Matz to do something that he has never done in his entire major league career, a guy who is super injury prone. You just asked Steven Matz to throw back-to-back days. He has never thrown back-to-back days ever. So I would contend that if everybody's feeling good and everybody's healthy and there's not information that we don't know, there is a lot more risk to having Matz go out for a second day in a row than there is to having Helsley go out for a second inning.
The next part of that conversation is also which player is going to be viewed as more valuable to the franchise, and it's clearly Helsley.
Yes.
Because he is one of the best closers in the game, and because if things did go sideways this year for the team, he's going to be your best trade asset or one of your 2 best trade assets. So that's why it's hard for me sometimes to be immediately like, that's just a stupid decision, because you just don't know what you don't know. And a manager's not going to always give us that information because that's strategic.
Sure.
Right? They're certainly not giving it to us pregame. And if I'm the manager, if I was in Ollie's seat, I wouldn't be telling you in the postgame either, because I got to play Philadelphia in 2 days. I don't want them thinking, knowing, or understanding that he might be in some way limited.
If the Cardinals are up 2-1 in the 9th inning on Friday night and Helsley doesn't come out, then we're going to sit here and say, okay, well, now we know why he didn't come out for a second inning of work the other day.
Right. And I think that's the point. This is much more. That's why I think this is a fun discussion point. And not, hey, there's no point in rushing to rip a decision, because we just don't know everything, and we will, as time goes by, we might realize, crap, he's not available on Friday. Maybe something's up. Maybe the back's tightening up, maybe not recovering. We just don't know. And right now, I would think we both agree it looks like a dumb decision or a weird decision because it doesn't make sense on its surface. You have a 1-run lead to protect. He only threw 10 pitches. Most closers probably go back out there in those circumstances.
And strikeouts are so valuable in extra innings.
And he's your best strikeout guy. But we don't have the other info, so that's why it's hard for me to be like, it's a trash move. Like, it sure looks like it. It's definitely one to question. By the time we get to Ollie next Tuesday, it probably won't even be an issue because a lot of it'll be answered by what we see in the upcoming games. All right. Bigger picture question, too, about the bullpen. This is starting off with a conversation about Chris Roycroft, who is struggling. And we're going to get to that next up because he's in a position right now where I don't think you can trust him. And he clearly looks shaken. He clearly looks like he's not able to find it. I think there probably should be a decision on him to go to Memphis here soon. But I want to talk to you, Matt, about kind of this idea of runway and figuring things out at the major league level that the team has talked about. So we'll get to that next up on the Redbird Rush Hour here on 104.1 KMOX.
Make reservations for the 2025 Women.
FlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, it's Redbird Rush Hour here on 104.1 KMOX. Matt, Pauley, Kevin Wheeler. We got a couple things to get to. I'll pop it up on the screen for everybody that's streaming. But we had the real third man throw a question at us. He said he watched the game today. Roycroft was terrified. You could see it in his eyes. He had no idea where his pitches were going. I predict he goes down soon. That was from the real third man who's commenting there. I said it the other day, and Matt, I just don't know how you can work through these things at the major league level and also, again, avoid blowing out other relievers because Roycroft is clearly in a spot you can't trust him in anything important. And again, I like the guy. I think he's talented. But when you're not throwing strikes and your velo is down from where it was last year and you're getting hit too, it's just tough to survive.
I might be the president of the Chris Roycroft fan club. I'm so bullish on what he is going to become out of the bullpen. I think he's a big-time weapon. I think he's a under-the-radar candidate to maybe be a closer at some point. Like, I think really, really highly of Roycroft. That being said, he's not helping this team win games right now. He's not in command of his pitches. His velocity is down. That's a big red flag. Got to figure out why the velocity is down right now.
And who knows? I mean, it could just be that his velocity is always down in April, but we've never seen him in April before.
Yeah, that 100% could be it.
Yeah.
He's never gone through a major league season from the start to the finish and knowing what it takes to do that. And you can't ease into the season. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on. People smarter than me or that's their jobs to figure it out. But at this point, it feels like there does have to be a better option. If for no other reason, your bullpen has been taxed so much
already.
Just bring up a fresh arm, somebody who hasn't pitched that much at Memphis, whether it's Riley O'Brien, whether it's Gordon Graceffo, whether it's Roddery Munoz. Like there's a bunch of different choices of guys who are on the 40-man roster that you can bring up.
It's just really hard now to find low leverage spots for a guy to get work when your starters are not going deep into games. So you cannot burn out Helsley, Romero, and Maton.
No.
If you do, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. And Fernandez has also struggled, although he looked better today.
And they did find Fernandez a low leverage spot the other day where you might have had a position player pitching, and that helps. So when you do find those spots, it's good. It's just it's not easy to find them.
And I know you're trying to develop, in the major leagues, and I'm for that. I'm not saying it's like you have to do it, but in this moment, you're a little short. Probably want to keep that in mind. So much more we want to get to, but we don't have time today. But Matt's got you covered. He got Sports Open Line coming up after the top of the hour. We'll be doing this again tomorrow as well. So a lot of great time to talk ball, and it's only going to be this way. Guys, this is going to be a juicy season to talk ball. And we didn't even get some of the good, like Jordan Walker with a big pinch hit in this game. There was some fun stuff there. We'll get to more of that tomorrow. Sports Open Line next here on KMOX.
Don't get lulled into believing the IRS is getting soft. It's just the opposite. Hi, this is